Hey everybody, it's Dr. V. I'm sorry for being a little bit late on this reading this week. I had a conference that I was presenting at this weekend, and I've been pretty swamped with that. So please forgive my tardiness in getting this reading out. I'm going to light some Palo Santo, excuse me, and jump right in. If you have the desire to reach out to me on Instant Go, if you're an iPhone user, please do that. It's instantgo.com/AskDrV. If you want to book a private reading with me, you can find out how to do that in the About box. So I'm going to jump right in. For this week, for the Twin Flame, Divine Love, Divine Counterpart, Uncommon Bond reading, and I'm going to freestyle today. Please forgive me, I am a little bit under the weather, and so if I'm coughing or clearing my throat a lot, that is why. So I'm going to start with the past energy of the Divine Masculine. So, excuse me. Go ahead and... Okay. Past energy for the Divine Masculine is rebirth. I feel like I need to pull another. And karma. So what I get from those two cards is that the Divine Masculine is coming out of an energy where he was in a process of rebirth. So if you look at this card, it's all about the phoenix rising. So as I've said before, we all have this great, we're like, oh, being the phoenix is awesome. You rise from the ashes, but what we forget is that there's often, there has to be a burning first before you can rise from the ashes. And so he's in a space, again, we're talking about energies, not gender. Divine Masculine has recently gone through a rebirth where there's been some things that have been burning away from him in order that he can rise up into who he's really meant to be. So he has, in the recent past, gone through a rebirth energetically. Again, sometimes what's happening in the energy is not necessarily what's happening in the world. So you may not know it, you may not see it in him yet, but it's happening. And the next card is karma. So how I read this is that the Divine Masculine is in a space where he is still dealing with some karmic circles. He is reaping what he has sown in the past. He is really in a space where he's looking at he has in the recent past looked at the karmic cycles of his life, seen the ways that he has created his own suffering in many ways, recognizing some of the cycles and circles that he's been in, and still continuing to be in. He is also, as I take this in the recent past, still in, if he has a karmic relationship, he's still in that karmic relationship and is still working through resolving that karma at this point. This is the recent past, but I'm getting that this energy is lingering, that it's not something that is done, but it's actually still lingering right now. So let's look at his present energies. Okay, present energy, the first card that was pulled was boundaries. So how I'm taking this card is that he is in a space where he is learning how to set boundaries. This may be related to the karma of the past, where in the past he hasn't had great boundaries, where he has allowed things or participated in things that he doesn't necessarily love or like or even really want to be in, but he hasn't had good boundaries to be able to say no. And so now he's moving in a space where he's realizing and recognizing in the present energies how he has not had boundaries, how he's not supported himself in his journey by not having boundaries. And he is learning how to set them, how to say no, how to withdraw his energy when necessary. He is in the process of deciding what he wants his boundaries to be going forward. He is deciding how he wants to live his life from this point forward. He recognizes that some of what he's going to have to go through is setting boundaries, saying no to things that he doesn't necessarily, in the past, hasn't been comfortable saying no to. So he's getting sort of a crash course in boundaries right now. And it could be that he's learning through his divine feminine. There's a number of readers that I've listened to lately, and it's come through for me pretty clearly as well, that the divine feminines are kind of like in this space of, look, you know, I'm going to have boundaries because you can't come to me with all of this, you know, old negative stuff. Like, you have to have your stuff together if you want to be in this situation with me in a meaningful way. And so I feel like he's learning boundaries because he's having it modeled to him a lot by the divine feminine. She is not here for his shit. She's like, hey, you know, you're going to have to step up and be your divine masculine in order to rock with me in this world. The next card that comes up for him in his present is Kuan Yin, the goddess of nurturing. It's a 10, which reduces to a 1. So there's some new beginnings that are happening, that he is learning a lot about nurturing himself, nurturing others, nurturing his dreams. He is learning how to balance in his feminine, getting more in touch with his emotions, getting more in touch with his inner knowledge. And he is also learning how to let himself be nurtured. So I'm getting that there's a lot of divine masculines who have sort of been in this space of, I'll just do it I'll do everything on my own, and I don't need somebody to nurture me, and have really cut off that aspect of themselves that does need to be nurtured, that does need to be cared for, that does need to be, excuse me, more receptive to love. And that's where he is presently. So he is learning that boundaries are actually a part of nurturing, that part of being nurtured is having somebody that says to you, no, that's not okay, that's not going to work. I'm thinking in terms of children, and I don't necessarily mean to call the divine masculine child, but in a sense, he has been in this lower level youthful energy. So like a page or a knight, where he's not quite being the king that he is meant to be. He's not quite being the he's not being divine yet. And because he's not being divine and he's not living out of his divine space, the divine feminine has had to put up some boundaries. And that may even be saying something like, you know, this isn't, like, I can't be in relationship with you in this manner as long as you are engaging in the behaviors that you're engaging with. And so as I was saying with regard to children, that oftentimes as parents, it's like, if you're not a parent, then just bear with me with the analogy, but oftentimes parents have to set boundaries with their kids. Like, no, you can't have donuts for breakfast, and you can't stay up all night, and you can't play on your iPod all day. There are certain things that you have to do. And he with the divine feminine being in that space of, no, this isn't, I love you and I accept you as you are, but that doesn't mean that we get to be in intimate relationship as long as you're behaving the way that you're behaving or living the way that you're living. And so he's learning right now, this is present energy, how boundaries can actually be very nurturing. And this is what I'm picking up, very new experience for him. This is a very new sort of space for him. He's not accustomed to having people say no to him, and he's not accustomed to having to recognize that you have to do better to get better. So where he's headed in the future, surrender. It's another 10 card. So it's another new beginning card. He is moving into a space of surrender where he's recognizing that a lot of the things that he's done in the past to try and keep things under control in the way that he thinks that they should be under control haven't been working for him, or are no longer working. And so he's moving into a space of surrender, of just being like, okay, I'm going to stop trying to force things. I'm going to stop trying to make things happen. Trying to, you know, like that movie, fetch is never going to happen. He's recognizing that there are certain things that are never going to happen and that he has to just surrender to the process. And where he's moving into the future also is fear. So there's the surrender, but there's also fear in letting go, right? Like, think about surrendering. Think about doing like a trust fall. If you've ever done that. It is completely a process of surrender, and it's also very fearful, because what you're doing is that when you're in a trust fall, you're leaning back. You know, you like cross your arms across your chest, and then you just fall back, and you trust that the people who are behind you are going to catch you. And that's where he is he's going to be moving into in the future is definitely some fear around the divine feminine. I get this energy that he is fearful that, you know, maybe he's just fucked up too much and she's just like done and over and it's never going to happen. And he's afraid of that, but he's also surrendering. So he's also kind of, really what keeps coming to me is like this image of the divine masculines just like doing a trust fall with the universe, just trusting that whatever happens is meant to happen, and there is going to be some fear with it, but he's going to surrender to the process. So let's jump into the divine feminine, where the divine feminine has been in the past. So the first card that comes up is Hathor, the goddess of love. So she is stepping into her divine love. She's stepping into unconditional love. She's stepping into her power as a goddess of love. She in the past, she moved into that space of being that goddess of love. What I'm taking this and how I hear what's coming through with this card is that she has probably in the past, the divine feminine has in the past repressed some of her love, you know, out of thinking that it might be safer to withdraw or withhold until things are certain and clear. And her recognizing that that's not necessarily what love is. Love is not like, it's not unconditional love if it's based on I'll love you if you do X, Y, and Z. So she has stepped into that space. She is stepping into her feminine power, letting love lead the way and trusting in the love. Like, really what keeps coming to me is this, like, she's really trusting in the love that she has and that she knows that the divine masculine has for her, even if it doesn't necessarily seem, as though things are as she would like them to be. So she's stepping into her love and releasing the expectations and outcomes. In the past, there's been some miscommunication. So there has been, you know, her seeing things a certain way, as you can see on this card, and he's seeing things another way, and they're miscommunicating. They're not seeing things the same way because they have a different vantage point. And so if you look at this, it's like the way it's a number 6 or number 9, depending on the way that you're looking. And it's like, she's like, you know, it's a 6, and he's like, it's a 9. And it's really that they're both correct. They just don't see it the same way. And so she has recognized that just because she's right doesn't necessarily mean that he's wrong, and giving space for both perspectives to be present. There has probably been miscommunication if you're in communication with your masculine, where you felt like you weren't quite on the same page, and that there was some difficulty with that. Where she is presently. Aw. I love this. The first card that came up is unconditional love. It's a number 1, again, new beginning. Oh, by the way, this card, number 11, just a side note. She's in a space of unconditional love where she really is practicing and living out this unconditional love for her masculine, where she is releasing expectations, releasing the desire for things to go a certain way, and she's giving way for unconditional love. Again, unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to put up with stuff that doesn't resonate with you. Doesn't mean that. It means you can love somebody and love them from a distance, and that's where she is she's in that space of I love you unconditionally, and really living that out and modeling that for him. And she also got the God of transformation. So this is Osiris, and Osiris died and was resurrected, and so this is another very similar to where the divine masculine has been in the past, that she's undergoing a transformation process. So she is there are things in her life that have died, and that she has, and now she's moving into the next phase of who she is. So for some of you divine feminines in the near future, your life is gonna look very, very different than it has in the recent past. There are things that are transforming, and she is in this space of unconditional love and just allowing what is to be. And where she's headed in the future. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I don't know how cool it is, but just bear with me. She's facing, in the future, she'll be dealing with her shadow aspect. That's the shadow side, the dark side, the stuff that, the unconscious, unprocessed material that we don't want to face. And I get what it's related to is abandonment. So she's really feeling this sense of, or she will be feeling this sense of abandonment, that she is going to be working through the feelings of abandonment that have been triggered by this connection, that are really about the collective. I mean, they are about her own personal story. Some of you may have an abandonment wound in the past that is coming up to be dealt with. And also it's connected to the collective energies. And she'll be working through that in the future, resolving that, healing that wound, so that she can really stay in that space of unconditional love and recognizing that only the love is real. Separation is an illusion. Disconnect is an illusion. All of that is an illusion. And when she stays in her unconditional love space, she recognizes that, that separation and abandonment is an illusion, and she's going to move through that energy so that she can, really stay in that space of unconditional love toward herself, toward her masculine, and recognizing that even if she feels abandoned or felt abandoned in the past, that she's never been abandoned. So I'm reminded of that poem or whatever it was from my childhood about footprints in the sand, and it's about this person has a dream, and in the dream he's walking, and there's 2 sets of footprints in the sand, and as he's walking, he sees these footprints, and he recognizes that one set of footprints is his and one set of footprints is God's. And then he hits a hard time in life, and he notices that only one set of footprints is present, and he says to the divine, he says to God, why did you abandon me? I noticed that when life got hard, that there was only one set of footprints. Why did you abandon me when things were so difficult? And God says, the divine says, oh, my child, I never abandoned you. When you saw those one set of footprints in the sand, it was then that I carried you. And so, I just got a really big surge of emotion about that I feel like the divine really wants the feminine to know that she isn't alone, that even though she may feel alone, and even though she may be buying into the illusion of separation and abandonment in the future, that the divine really wants the feminine to know that she's never been alone, and that she is actually being carried in this process by the divine, by through the tough times. She's going to understand after she moves through this process that she was never alone, that the divine has been carrying her all along. It's really beautiful. I'm going to move these. Actually, I think I'll leave them here for now. I may have to move them in a minute so you can see. So let's move into what's in the Divine Masculine's headspace toward the Divine Feminine. And this card jumped out, and it's very soon. It says, clearly decide what you want so that it comes to you now. Let me shuffle again. So what is it that the Divine Masculine, well, actually, I'm sorry, what's in the Divine Masculine's headspace toward the feminine? So we got very soon. The next card is religious factors and playfulness. So in his headspace, he's in a space of like, you know, that he's in the process of clearly deciding what he wants. I get the sense that he really isn't clear at this point. The Divine Masculine isn't super clear about what he wants. He's still waffling between what he thinks he should do and what he wants. But in his headspace, he's really in a space of very soon making a decision and moving forward. And when he makes that decision, the universe will conspire to support him. In his headspace, there's some religious, like it says religious factors, but I always take this card to mean upbringing, childhood. It's like old patterns of belief. So it's like, it could be religious, but I don't necessarily get religion as much as it is like dogma and belief systems are in his mind are factoring into his path right now. So he is in a space where he's wrestling with everything that he thought he knew and everything that he wanted to or was conditioned to believe. And so in his mind, he's really contending with that now. And in his mind, he really wants to move into a space of playfulness. Like, I feel like he's had a really heavy energy for a long time, where it's like life has been really serious and it's felt really heavy and really challenging, but he really wants to move into a space of playfulness. So I'm getting from this is that there's a sense of him moving through some of the energies of old childhood woundings and recapturing that sense of innocence that he had once in his life before life happened. That's where he is in his headspace. So where is the Divine Feminine in her headspace toward the Divine Masculine? This card wants to come out. Let your friends help you. Pay attention to the red flags. And free yourself. Okay, cool. So what's really clear with this is that in her mind, the Divine Feminine really wants the Divine Masculine to reach out and get some support. It feels like he's been kind of carrying this burden for a long time, and because of that, it's because he sees it through his own lens of experience, he's having a hard time getting a proper perspective. And so she's like, you know, reach out, get some support, get some help through this so that you're not feeling like you have to keep circling this mountain forever. And she also wants him to pay attention to the red flags. So it's like, in her mind, she's like, there are things that are cautioning you. There are things that are telling you that you're on the wrong path, that you're making the wrong decisions. It could be things like, basically whatever it is that she is seeing the red flags. She's seeing the things that are not working, that haven't been working for the Divine Masculine. And she's saying to him in her mind, she's like, you know, in her mind space, she's like, wake up, buddy, like pay attention, smell the coffee. Look at the situation, whatever that situation might be, through honest eyes, and pay attention, because the universe is trying to tell you something and you're just not listening. And in her mind, she wants him to free himself. In her mind, she wants him to take control back of his life. She wants him to step into his power and truly be the Divine Masculine. She wants him to set himself free from the mental prison that he is in. So, universe, where is the Divine Masculine in his heart space? Actually, I'm going to switch decks. I'm going to use the Angel Love deck. The universe wants me to use this deck. So where is the Divine Masculine in his heart space toward the Divine Feminine? Where is the Divine Masculine in his heart space toward the Divine Feminine? The first one is compassion. The next card is connection. And the third one is humility. So in his heart space, there's a couple of things that he feels compassion because he knows that he has, in his heart, he knows that he has done the feminine dirty, that he's done some things that are not good, that he's hurt her, that he has caused her pain, and so he has a lot of compassion for her. And in his heart space, he wants her to have compassion for him. By the way, this is 29, 9 plus 2 is 11, so that is suggesting to me that he is on a heart level recognizing the power and beauty of this connection. He also is feeling connection. He is recognizing this connection. He knows that there is something powerful and beautiful happening here, and he is, in his heart, he knows it. He knows that this connection is beautiful and real, and he is, in his heart, he's very aware of it. You guys, another 11 card. And humility. He's in his heart, he's moving into a place of humility where he may have been in a space for a long time of kind of thinking he had it all together, thinking that he knew what he was doing, that he was that he was really in his heart, really ego-based. There was a lot of ego that was leading the show. And now he's moving in his heart, he's moving into a space of humility where he's recognizing that maybe I don't know everything. Maybe the decisions that I've been making haven't been the best choices. And maybe I've been limiting myself. Maybe I'm contributing to my own suffering. And he's in a space of really recognizing that humility. I also get the sense that that he's being humbled in some ways. That he is being humbled, that he is being, he isn't accustomed to having things not go exactly as he wants. He's not accustomed to that. And so he's learning a sense of humility and contending with his ego so that he cannot be the man that, or the person that's ego-based, but rather really in a space of humility and recognizing that sometimes there are things that happen that are beyond our conscious understanding, that we can't understand through our head. You can't understand heart things and soul things through your thoughts. So where is the feminine, her heart space toward the masculine? Intimacy. She feels a real sense of intimacy with him. Transcendence is the next card. And the final card for the feminine in her heart space toward the divine masculation is appreciation. So in her heart space, she is really aware of the sense of intimacy and has opened herself up. You know, it's like intimacy, I heard this said, like intimacy is like into me see. And so she has let the divine masculine see her. She has let him really see who she truly is at a core level, and is vulnerable and open, and has been very raw and very present to the connection, and really fostering that sense of intimacy. In her heart space, she's also rising above. She's transcending the circumstances. So she's using whatever's going on in the connection as an opportunity to rise above, to transcend her limitations or her self-perceived limitations, to rise above the stories that she's been telling herself, about the connection. She's really transcending her limits and rising above. And this last card is appreciation. She is very much in the space of appreciation. She is appreciating the connection. So what is coming through for me with this card is that, especially for those that are in separation, that she is recognizing that even if the connection, even if they don't come back into union or reunion or whatever, that just the opportunity to be loved and to feel this kind of divine love and this portal opening her to the divine has been a gift, and she's really appreciating that. She's really in a space of deep appreciation. It's like her spirit is bowing so deeply to the divine masculine spirit and saying, you know, regardless of what happens, regardless of where this goes, I want you to know that I appreciate who you are and what you have brought into my life, and even thankful for the pain, because the pain has taught her some things and has helped her to rise above and to be better than she thought she could be. So now I'm going to set these cards aside. I'm going to pull some cards around blocks. So, Spirit, what are the blocks that the divine masculine is experiencing right now in this connection with the feminine? Spirit, what are the blocks that the divine masculine is experiencing toward the feminine? Spirit, what are the blocks that the divine masculine is experiencing toward his feminine? Spirit, what are the blocks that the divine masculine is experiencing toward the feminine? This is the John Holland Psychic Tarot. The block, crown chakra, disconnect and boredom, and truth. So the blocks that the divine masculine is the crown chakra. So he's blocking his higher knowing. He's blocking the ability to be able to see things as they really are. So it's like he, on a soul level, recognizes the connection. He recognizes the beauty. Spirit is trying to tell him, like, hey, yo, get it together. And trying to tap into his intuition and higher knowledge. And he's blocking that now. The next card is discontent and boredom. So I don't get this necessarily in his relationship with the divine feminine. I feel like overall he's disconnected. He's disconnected from his emotions. Excuse me. He's disconnected from his higher knowing. He's disconnected from his heart. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. He's just feeling that sense of being discontent and bored with his life. And it's a block to his being able to come forth to the feminine. And the other barrier is the truth. So he's blocking his knowing. He is blocking knowing the truth of the connection. He's blocking knowing the truth of himself. He's blocking he's basically just like avoiding like crazy, okay? He's avoiding the spiritual awakening. He's avoiding the truth coming through. He is avoiding evaluating the past and recognizing his patterns. He's avoiding learning lessons. This is all the block, right? He's blocking the fact that he, on some level, knows that it's truth and reconciliation time, and he's blocking the fact knowing that something significant has to change in his life. He doesn't really, that's blocking him. He is avoiding knowing the truth, so he's kind of engaging in some self-deception right now about his life as a whole. This isn't necessarily related just to the feminine. It's like really about his life as a whole. Like he is blocking knowing that he's discontented and that he's bored and that he's not living to his fullest potential. And that's a block to the union. So for the feminine, some blocks. The first one is financial and material changes. So she may be having some difficulties financially, that may be feeling like she wants to get her financial affairs in order. She wants to get her material world in order before she really feels like she can come into connection with the divine or with her divine feminine. So these are all the red cards are practical stuff. So she's what's blocking the feminine is that she really wants to feel more solid and be in a more powerful financial position, material position. And because that's not exactly what she thinks it should be, it's blocking her. This card is positive movement forward. And it's, she is in some ways blocking herself because she's not letting herself move forward. So for those of you that are in connection or in like sporadic communication with your masculine, you may be actually blocking the connection by not allowing yourself to move forward. So you may be holding on, hoping that the outcome will change, hoping that, you know, he'll realize what a gift you are, that he'll kind of have an illumination. And because you're holding out hope for that, it's blocking you from being able to move forward. Ironically, it's also blocking the connection because sometimes people have to feel pain in order to move forward. So sometimes people, you know, there's a song from like the 80s, like one of those 80s hair bands. It's like, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And so by any feminine that's holding on and not being willing to release the connection, it's actually blocking positive movement forward. Now we understand that like this connection is eternal, it's forever. It's not like letting go doesn't mean that the connection goes away. It just means that you give it space to breathe and that you give the masculine the freedom to choose his own path. But some feminines are really resisting that and not wanting to move forward. And that's actually contributing to blocking the situation. And the final card that came up, this is the devil in the traditional tarot. And so what's blocking is some addictive or self-limiting behaviors. So maybe she thinks that, you know, this could be, you know, substance use or substance abuse. This can be addictive behaviors like codependence. This could be her blocking her connection to source. Like if you look at these cards, these are all, the reds, like I said, are all material things. And so she may be focusing too much on the material world and not enough on the spiritual world. And so there's a part of her that needs to surrender that and allow herself to disconnect from the material and the physical world and move into the spiritual and get reconnected with spirit. So this is saying, like, you know, you can step up your spirituality. You can do more, meditate more, really focus on yourself and getting connected and getting really dialed into spirit instead of trying to get those needs met through other things, which is like, you know, again, food, any kind of addictive behaviors. Excuse me. People, etc. She could be feeling somewhat addicted to her masculine, and that's blocking the connection. There's a song about that too. It says it's an old country song. It says it's called Addicted, actually. It's like, she says she feels like she's addicted to a real bad thing, always sitting, waiting, wondering if the phone will ring. She knows she bounces like a yo-yo when he pulls her string. It hurts to feel like such a fool. And so that could be part of what's happening with her, is that she's feeling addicted to her divine masculine. So advice from spirit to go forward. Some messages from the divine for this connection. Wild Woman in reverse. Wind. And Standstill. Very interesting. Let me grab the book, because this is a pretty new deck. I'm not super familiar with it. The Wild Woman in reverse. Excess for its own sake is a sign of imbalance. This is a warning that you may be trapped in obsessive thinking or behavior, literally what we just talked about, looking for release in places that will never provide it. Let go, lest you become like the hungry ghosts of Chinese Buddhist lore that can never be fulfilled. True release comes from trusting the fluidity of life, understanding that just as river needs its banks to flow through, so do you need boundaries around your thinking and behavior. Now is the time to simplify, be mindful, and connect to that light within. So this again is going back inside, like dealing with any limiting beliefs, any limiting behaviors, and having boundaries. So again, it goes back to like if the feminine's feeling addicted to the masculine, to really surrendering and letting go. And also him, or the divine masculine energy, being in that space of not having good boundaries and sort of being in that perhaps codependent space, blocking his knowledge. The next card is the Wind card. And this one is, when the spirit of wind comes calling, it's a sign of change. Perhaps you need to change your mind about something. Perhaps an old way of doing things has become automatic, and now that you've gained greater clarity, you can make a new choice. Regardless of what the change is, you can expect to be understood, to have clear communication with others at this time. Ideas are solid, and the shift is being called for in the highest good of all. So that card is really saying to me is like surrendering and letting go. Really like kind of tossing up the outcome to the wind and to the universe and being like, whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to let go of my need and my desire to make things happen, because that's just not how it works. So there's new choices that are being made. There's clarity that's coming. There's communication that's coming for both parties involved in the situation. It's the wind of change, like another old song, Scorpions. And that's where both of them are, is evaluating their ways of being and recognizing that with greater clarity that comes the opportunity to make different choices. And they're both, the universe is saying like surrender, just let the changes come and let the shift happen. So the next card is from the universe's Standstill. Message from the universe. It says, when things seem to stall or stagnate, or when you feel stuck, the symbol appears as a reminder that constant action isn't going to get you where you want to go. Perhaps it's time to gather more information, or just wait until the universe makes the next move. No matter what, this moment is a beautiful gift orchestrated in your favor. Enjoy it. Let the universe bring all the parts together for the highest good. Go and play, recharge, and take the focus off whatever has stalled. Life will get busy again for you sooner than you think. So what I'm really getting is that they really are at like a stagnant point. This connection is just stalled right now. It's not moving forward. It's not moving back. It's just kind of like almost at a face-off. And the face-off is like, it's tempting to just be like, oh, let's do something more. Let's move it forward. Let's do all of this. And what the universe is saying is like, just be still. Like, be still and know that I am God. Allow what's happening to happen. It doesn't necessarily like, if you're taking steps forward on the wrong path, you're not actually making progress. And so it's like, sometimes it's just okay to sit still and to go within and to get reconnected to source and surrender and allow what is happening to be what is happening without imposing our agendas, without trying to make it something that we think it should be, that it's not ready to be. So I'm getting a sense of really just both parties having kind of paused, and they're not moving forward, not moving backwards. They're just kind of standing, a little bit stagnant, and the universe is like, look, I'm working behind the scenes right now. I'm working things out. You don't feel like you have to like force the situation. Don't feel like it has to be something that has to happen. Literally just stand still and let it be what it is. Have some fun, do your own work, do your own healing, reconnect with your friends, focus on your business, whatever that looks like for you. Focus on all of those things so that you can actually, when the time is right, things will begin to move again. And remember, this is the energy for this week, so this standstill could lift next week. But at least for this week, this is an opportunity for you to go within, to capture your sense of self, really reconnect with spirit, and work on surrendering and letting go of whatever it is that no longer serves you, so that you can move forward in your life in a positive way, with or without your divine counterpart. So that is it for right now. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you want a reading, be sure to comment and share if this resonates with you, okay? Talk with you all soon. Bye.